Welcome to the Don't Blame the Leads podcast, the number one podcast for insurance agents and sales in the entire multiverse. Today, my guest is the Honorable Pritpal Singh Narang. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. I'm very interested. I'm sure a lot of people have seen you on TikTok. I know I became a fan of yours from TikTok and from getting to know you personally. So tell the world, walk me through your very first week as a life insurance agent. What were you thinking, feeling, and what reality check hit you the hardest?
Well, I'm glad we're doing this, bro. Thank you for having me on. First week, man. It was back in 2018. I feel like the answer is just excitement. Everybody's excited that I was pitched an opportunity that I can make money on, right? We're all ethical, we're all doing the right thing by the client, but I feel like we all start in the industry for the money and then you stick around for something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was pitched a dream of how I could make. I started at a company where I could get 35% comp. It felt amazing that I could write some sales, I could help some families, and I'll make a third, almost half of the premium, and I'll take home like that, all of that thing up front. But nothing more than just excitement, bro. But the reality check hit once you actually got the license and you realized people have objections. People don't just buy because you have a license. You realize you're selling something that has to be sold. It's not bought. We've all heard that before, right? But
Right.
it's just one of those things where you're telling the other person what their problem is and then offering the solution. That was the first reality check. I think that hit me in the first 30 days of being in the business. But the first week, just pure excitement, ready to do something, high on the hopium as we call it, and ready to get to work, man. But the reality check was 30 days in.
Hopium. I like that a lot. Well, you said the reality check was 30 days in. So if you could go back and whisper one piece of advice to yourself from day one or day 30, what would that advice be and why?
It would, knowing what I know now, or maybe even knowing what I know a year in, would probably be the fact that it's a pure numbers game. And if I had to really hone in on that advice, I would say that because it's a people's business, I've began to learn that there's no such thing as a warm market and a cold market. So I've had people cut me off in my life before, as I'm sure you've had. That means that's a warm person going cold.
Mm-hmm.
You've had people that are strangers that have become friends, acquaintances, and now that's a cold person becoming warm. So this whole warm and cold thing never, in the first year or two, obviously it hit me because we were in a model where I was told work in the warm market always. And then you realize that that's not really a thing. And now almost 7 years in, that's the only advice I keep giving to myself. Even if I had to go back, I wish I knew that 2 years in, 30 days in, that it's, at the end of the day, it's just the people's business. I don't know if I'll throw any more book recommendations, but I've read How to Win Friends and Influence People 3 times.
Ooh.
And I picked up that book that time. And every time I pick it up, whether it's an audiobook or a physical book, it's just completely different. Those 10 principles.
Mm-hmm.
It's pure basic, but once you hit like one appointment where it applies in the field, that light bulb goes off, right? I
Mm-hmm.
remember an instance, it was with one of my first clients was my neighbor, one of my own neighbors, because I was trying to go go crazy. So we had 20, $30,000 of production in the first 2 months just from people that I knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was getting that person to get into something that was four, five, $600 a month. But at the same time, saying that, hey, if you have this, you got $1 million coming to your family in the event of something happening to you. All of a sudden, that relationship changed, right? It changed from we're just friends, we just know each other a little bit because he's just a distant neighbor. But now I'm an agent. Now I'm somebody who puts something in place for you.
Yeah.
So that would be my one piece of advice, bro, is to just understand that warm and cold is not a thing and just continue to work people. That's what it really is.
I'm interviewing you, but it's so powerful what you said. I remember being told that a lead is nothing but a name and a number. And I just could not understand that. I was told it a lot when I was new, and I
Yep.
just didn't get it. But it's absolutely right that it's really just someone who's might be interested. And just because they're interested doesn't mean they're going to buy. And it doesn't mean they really are interested. They might have just been Googling something. So that's very strong. It's
It
super
reminds
strong.
me of a Greg Cardone. A no interest is a level of interest.
That's a bar. That's very true. That kind of answered the question already, but what do you think is the biggest myth about life insurance sales that you believe when you started? And how did discovering the truth change everything?
This is funny, man. And I only say that because the biggest myth, where you realize later it's a myth, maybe that's how all myths work. But I think it's the dream of you come in, you're automatically going to make 250K. You're automatically going to make 1 million. You're automatically going to crush it, right? And what's unfortunate, if I'll take a quick side tangent here, is we live in the information age, right? Everything's
Yeah.
on your fingertips, even with all the crazy events happening right now in September 2025. Just this last week alone has been crazy, right? But you probably even see it. Some of the videos of some of the horrific events that have been happening. These videos back in the day, in your age and my age, we're not that far apart. We used to have to click a couple of buttons to see a video, right? Now everything just auto plays and you're continuously fed information. So in the life insurance age, the information that I keep seeing based on algorithms is look at me, I just closed 20,000 AP this week. Look at me, I just did this week, right? And then you can't even ask them for their 1099s because nobody's disclosing what they actually made from that AP or what was the lead cost that went into the AP or how many calls they actually had to make to close that AP or even if they close the AP and you don't know if the AP is actually target commissionable AP, right? So my point is that you don't ever stick on the books, right? Are you just having the right business to then replace previous business that fell? So anyways, to answer your question about the myth, is just how easy this thing is. It's
I
not easy.
agree. I totally agree. And I feel like my original upline, if you ever see this, you owe me $10,000 a week. Okay. Because that's what we were promised. If you're in here for this long, you're going to make $10,000 a week. This long, you're going to make $40,000 a week. It's so,
The typical join, don't quit advice, right? It doesn't give you the, because that's what I used to get told at every convention. When I went to the conventions at my previous company, it was always raise your hand if you're here for the first time. And 80% of the room stood up. So then you just begin to question, like, what happened to the people from last year? Where are they at, right? So I think the myth is just how easy some uplines will make it sound. Now, I personally, I don't know, you do this. When we're interviewing agents, we're teaching them the reality of it, right? We have a whole slideshow where we teach them client acquisition. Automatically, man, their eyes open up. It's like, wait a second, I have to do work. I have to go find clients. This is something I have to do. So we don't sell the dream, man. We sell the reality. And I'll answer one last thing here. I used to fall victim to pedestal syndrome, God syndrome. We used to be taught the script. Look how much this guy makes. So all of a sudden, that's gonna make me money. No, the guy making $6 million a year is not paying my bills, right? And if new agents understood this a lot faster, they wouldn't believe in the myth anyway. They'd be shocked into reality and they'd be able to work. I'd rather you show your 1099, right? If I can go, let's say, in the humblest way possible, I'm sitting right around 200-ish K in cash flow. I can sell that dream to somebody. Hey, look, I know how to make 200, 300, 400K. Let me take you to there. Let me get you making 100K, right? Then we'll talk about making a million. But I'm not making a million. I can't sell you that dream, right?
right.
So the myth, bro, is just people think it's easy. It's not.
I got to add to that. When I'm interviewing agents, one of the most common questions that I get is, what are your agents making? What's your top agent making? Or how much? And I tell people, hey, listen, if I was at some other IMO, I would easily wave my top agent's income in your face. But I can tell you that I have a bunch of agents that made nothing. That doesn't mean that you're going to make nothing, but it
Right.
also, my top agent's income doesn't reflect on you either, because everyone has different circumstances. Everyone has different levels of understanding, different levels of work ethic. People have different circumstances. I'm never going to place an agent that made nothing last month because they have a full-time job and 5 kids against an agent who is doing this full time, buying tons of leads, door knocking and calling and has dialers. There's so many different levels. It's just
Yep.
unfair to even have that discussion. So
It's true.
that was very good. All right. So I'm going to skip through a couple of these. What mindset or daily habits have been the most important to your success in life insurance sales or in life?
Again, in my previous company, and you're probably even laughing hearing me saying all this stuff because a lot of times when we move IMOs, we move companies, we don't have a lot of nice things to say about where we come from. But then you end up realizing as you go how much difference that maybe you being there did actually make for good or bad. So I keep referencing it because this goes back to that thing. I used to hear this advice about this business is 90% mindset, 10% skill set. We all get to those events and those meetings where we hear that advice. But I don't think anybody really knows what that advice means. What does it mean to have a 90% of your efforts going into mindset? It really has to do with dealing with rejection all day, especially in my position where you've got agency owners, but then you also have an agency, column based shops in this industry. Leading a leader is a different conversation than leading a brand new agent. So learning that. When it comes to the mindset or daily habits, I would say it has to go with communication, it has to go with people, it has to go with what you said earlier, which is a lead is nothing more than just an opportunity to talk to somebody. You literally cannot beat anyone in this industry unless you outwork them. I don't care what IMO you're at, what company you're at. I mean, you could be at a 40% comp, and if you're doing more appointments than somebody at 120% compensation, you will outproduce them. You will out earn them. I know people at these super low comp models that we all know about in the industry, and they're out cash flowing a lot of other people, right? And we're talking people with 130% comp. So the mindset, man, is there has to be a level of grit. I don't think people understand if, let's say, there's a level of this is what I think I need to do. What you actually need to do is like 50 times more than that. Because the level of grit that it takes to get up in the morning and just repeat the same thing over and over again, right? And I'm not talking about a typical rat race. I'm talking about the level of dedication that it just takes to just do it again, do it again, do it again. Another book club, right? Ed Milet's The Power of One More. That's literally, you have to be in the mindset that imagine a brand new agent wakes up today. They have 10 appointments scheduled, 5 of them canceled.
Mm.
That's a morale issue for a lot of people. They'll get discouraged and they talk about quitting, right? I mean, you could be in this industry for 10 years. We still think about it sometimes, right? Not that we're gonna quit, but it's like we think about it, like, okay, what else could I be doing? But then you realize there's nothing better, right? So you stick around. But anyways, the mindset goes to the grit, the dedication to just keep at it. That cycle needs to keep spinning because the moment that stops, you stop. The contentment and the fulfillment, bro, is so far. So far, people think that it's like right there. It's not. The contentment doesn't come from writing a sale. It comes from whatever you achieved like 10 years later from writing that sale, right?
Yeah.
People, I've paid death claims already, right? Those are the things that'll keep you around because you're like, okay, you know what? My first claim was actually my own CPA. She passed away. Family got 330K. Didn't even realize, right? But that stepped up a lot of confidence in me. Funny enough, a hot topic these days in the industry is IUL, right? That was an IUL death claim, right?
Mm.
Not to get too product specific, but for the first time I saw that the cash value plus the death benefit when, right? It was 300K policy, 330K was distributed to the families, right? This lady unintentionally left behind, it was a grandmother unintentionally left behind 100K per child to go for the grandkids college or whatever. So the mindset and the daily habits, man, just come from, can you keep the appointments up? Can you keep going? And I sound like a broken record, but the more you could just keep at that, you'll be just fine.
Nice. So, in that case, what goes through your head during a no streak? We're
Mm.
talking about mindset. How do you maintain your energy when you get all that rejection? What are some tips that you can give some people?
I gotta be real, that's not easy. That's not easy at all because our raw material in this business is people, right? And people are the most variable driven thing on the market. Everything is always changing. Everybody's always going through something, including yourself. I'll answer this in two ways. So, the no streak for myself, that means I've received no's. A lot of people will think, bro, that no's come from just clients. Mm-mm. No's also come from a team who's not coachable. That's huge, right? No's also come from me realizing that, let's say, a leadership above me isn't there and present to coach me. Because you get to a certain point where you realize that you need your own pouring into. And this is a powerful question, like, especially in the phase that I'm in right now. The no streak is crazy because most of the time people think rejection just comes from clients. No, no, no. Rejection comes from so many different areas, right? Sometimes it'll be your own family. Sometimes it'll be your own faith. You feel rejected by your own faith sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So because people are people and people do people things, we get in this little phase. How do I say? Like the black hole in the middle, right?
Yeah.
How do I maintain it? You have to really sit back and realize where the no is coming from. Is it the clients? Is it the uncoachable team? Is it lack of leadership? Is it your own faith? Are you giving yourself no by not maintaining your physical health, eating right, like things like that? Where is the no coming from, right? Maintaining energy for me, man, I'm beginning to realize that for me, it just means having a conversation with somebody else who has the ability to pour into me. A
Mm.
lot of times people will say, just do the thing, take a break, go to the gym, go do what you got to do, things like that. That's fine, but that still requires so much willpower up here, not in my tongue, in my brain. It requires a lot of willpower, right, to do it. But then at the same time, if you're seeing clients, if you're running a team, people won't put the curtains behind in this industry to talk about the reality. People always need somebody to pour into them.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I hate to say this to all the people listening, sometimes that's not your upline. You need people to pour into you. So how do you maintain your energy? You borrow it from somebody else who has it. ignoring the fact that they might be dealing with their own thing. But you go borrow that energy from somebody else and you run with it.
Yeah. I think that's very powerful, especially sometimes what a lot of people in this industry, in my opinion, don't realize is a lot of times their uplines are super fresh and don't know what they're talking about. And they're drinking Kool-Aid and they're just regurgitating things. They don't know what they're talking about. So going to them is the worst thing because they don't know how to handle it. They're barely a year or two into the industry. They don't know what's going on either. So that's super strong. Okay. All right. So what is your secret sauce for getting past the initial I'm not interested response?
So if we're talking about more of the client side, if somebody says I'm not interested, it's an objection handle for sure. By the way, I have an objection handling playbook that we give to the agents. I don't know if you've seen those little flashcards that have come on Instagram recently, but I forget the guy who made them. I
Yeah.
bought a bunch of those and I started giving them to agents. To me, man, because the model that I've been has not been more on leads, it's been more of relationship selling, consultative selling, more market, networking, things like that. Very heavy on the referrals based business. That's why I've stayed in business this long. I would say that my response to the I'm not interested isn't your typical kind of objection handle. It's more of, I say, politely push through, right? Because chances are that you don't know what they're not interested in just yet. Just because they said, I'm not interested, you don't know what they're not interested in yet. Does that make sense? So you have to actually ask them. You have to figure out what they're not interested in. And I'm not going to go with the typical, is it price? Is it this? Is it that? And you just have to remind them of where they came from. So, for example, if the beginning of the conversation was about solving just the pure protection problem, just take it back to that. Hey, I understand where you're coming from, but real quick, let me just recap. The reason we were having this call was because we wanted to make sure that Aunt Jane was protected or wife Jane was protected because of this happening, right? Is that still something of concern? You just kind of pretend that that never came up and you just go back, right? Because the reality is, if you're having the meeting, especially the way I do it with a presentation and everything, there already is a level of interest. You just lost them somewhere, right? I don't know if people have heard of Jordan Belfort's straight line sales method.
It's a very good
Uh,
book.
that visual is always in my head because I took notes when I bought into his course back when it wasn't $9,000, $10,000 when it came out. It was like 1,400, right?
Yeah.
So I bought it, and to this day, I remember the module that I took notes on. He literally draws out a straight line and says any deviation is just away from the line, right? And you're supposed to
You
just bring
take
it back,
them and bring them
right?
back. Yep.
Yep. That was huge for me because that stuck with me for years. I mean, I think I went through that course 5, 6 years ago, but that's how I would personally handle that. I'm not interested in a conversational setting. Just take it back to the top, bring it back, remind them of what they were doing, and then go from there.
That's a very good book. You don't want them to go off into space, into Uranus. Yeah, that's good. That's amazing. All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple more questions here. So you already said that you get your stuff from Warm Market. What are your other go-to strategies for generating life insurance leads?
So just because, and this is where self-awareness comes in, right? Just because I or somebody else in this industry like yourself has created the ability to be referable, likable, all of that, we have to be real with ourselves that sometimes all of that stuff isn't very duplicatable, right? So coming to that realization this year, almost 6 years into the industry plus, we've also started doing your typical generating leads online, right?
Hmm.
That's a sensitive topic, whether you buy leads or generate leads or whatever you do. I still teach the team primarily that, hey, you build a business organically. We do social media training, right? We do training on actually running a LinkedIn, a Facebook, an Instagram, a TikTok, a YouTube Shorts, and all how to do all that and put yourself in the position to receive. Literally Tuesday, we were having an agency call on this, how to be in the position to have an inbound in the first place. Because a lot of people enter the industry thinking, I have a license, I'm going to get clients. No,
Not at
you
all.
have to be in position to get clients, right? It's
Yeah.
crazy. I had this one of my new agents joined me a couple months ago. She was so excited. Passed her exam first try. She's like, I'm ready. I got 10 people lined up. I said, just wait. You don't have 10 people lined up. So, anyways, the lead stuff, man, recently what we've started doing is I don't tell my agents to go to vendors. I believe that most vendors will saturate themselves out of a market in 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
And agents that rely too heavily on leads, unfortunately, that's you handing your source of revenue to somebody else. Because if their lead generation stops, your business stops, right? So I'll take self-generation any day. So what me and my team have started doing, not every one of our 50 plus agents at this point, but about 10 of us are doing our own lead generation on the Meta platforms, right? So that's literally ads with my face or their face on it, right? I can't give away too much of the secret sauce here, but it's literally our personal stuff. Think Jake from State Farm, right?
Yeah.
It's putting our personal stuff out there, setting up the CRMs, the workflows, the automated text campaigns, being fully compliant, everything to generate a system where inbound comes in, right? In addition to the warm market stuff that they're already doing. Because remember, warm market isn't only the people you know, it's the people that you continue to know, right? So you build that and you build this. So my newest strategy has been for the last couple of months, and we're going to continue doing it, is online lead generation.
Nice. Nice. All right, only two or three more questions for you. I don't want to wear you down.
All
What
good.
is the most emotional client conversation you've had, and how did it reinforce why you do this work?
Oof. There's not been that many. The most emotional that come to mind on a surface level would be the ones that I had after I paid a claim, right? Those are always the ones because that conversation turns into, hey, can you now go ahead and set me up with a policy? I wish agents would know this. I really hope that agents don't have to pay a claim anytime soon, right? That I wish that upon you that you don't have to pay a claim anytime soon. But if you pay a claim, I can almost guarantee you the way that conversation is going to go is after all the sensitivity, right? You have to be very respectful and keen to what just happened with that family. But once you've paid the claim, I can almost guarantee in stone that the next part of that conversation will be, hey, can you go ahead and set me up now? So to me, on the surface level, those have been the most emotional client conversations that I've had, is the ones that are after paying the death benefit claims, the living benefit claims. And I'm just talking about the ones I've paid, not even including some that my agents have already paid or some that my uplines have already paid and people that are in our organizations have already paid. Like those tend to be the most emotional conversations. I would say the second most emotional conversations, and I'm not pinpointing one because to me they're all the same. The death claim conversations. Then there's a few that you've had that can't qualify or they've been declined for insurance 8, 9, 10 times, right? I had this lady in Wisconsin, young lady, 40s. I don't remember the exact age. It was last year, actually, Wisconsin. Comes to me as a referral from a captive agent who couldn't help her, right? So he sent her my way. We went that way, and turns out that she's been declined by so many different times because of a autoimmune thing, and she has this stuff already. I went in my quoting, I put it in the toolkits. We had a company that gave her 50K. Day one, no problem, nothing, right? But that level of mental peace, if you want to call it, that she just realized that she's been declined 8, 9, 10 times and now she has a 50K policy in place. And you still have the agent saying, no, don't sell that. She doesn't need 50K. That's too little or whatever. Man, she's actually got coverage. That's the only way to do a proper risk transfer, at least when it comes to insurance, right? But I would say that's an emotional conversation. The other person being able to say, oh my God, I got coverage.
Right.
Those, my first level of, I would say, most emotional conversation is anytime I've paid a claim. The second most level is when I've taken somebody from a denial to an approval. Another quick story on that, right? I had a client actually this year, one of my agents, her sister-in-law. And the agent didn't stick around in the business, but her sister-in-law needed a policy. Well, we go back, we wrote the policy back in February, and it got declined for things like arrhythmia and diabetes with complications, and she doesn't even have them. That's the craziest part, right? Most agents, Julian, would give up.
Oh, yeah.
So what we did is rather than giving up, and I'm glad that the agent decided to see the value in this and say, I need to get my sister-in-law covered, right? So we looked at it, we pulled up the reports, we ordered the MIB report, the RX histories, everything, right? We went through the entire dispute process. I mean, we were the agents telling the client, go to the doctor, go get this note that's cleared and this and that and this and that, right? Lo and behold, August, last month, we were able to get her approved at standard,
Hey,
right?
let's
So
go.
fighting for the client, but that's another emotional conversation, right? Like I had to take somebody from a denial to get them approved. Somebody who kept getting denied with some fully underwritten carriers, put them on a simplified issue carrier. Like that level of conversation gets somewhat emotional.
Yeah, no, you said so many good things in there. That's one of the reasons why I'll never understand a lot of agents that are online. For once, I'm not going to throw shade at them, but if you can only offer one product or you're specializing in one thing, why hate or discourage people if you can't qualify this client? Why discourage people from getting a product that they can qualify for? And I'll never understand the single-mindedness of that. And if you ask any of them, well, what happens if this person is 78 years old and they're on a fixed income, but they want something to cover a burial? What are you going to offer this person then? And then that conversation turns into, well, there's a strategy and you can do this, and then they can put this much into a Roth account and then get them a whole life policy.
They forgot what they got the license for.
they were taught differently. All right, last three questions for you. So number one, Pritpal, are you hiring?
Hiring such a complicated word, man. So hiring, recruiting, all this stuff, yes, we're always expanding the team. Now, we have a proper filtration process. If you sit with me, it'll be more along the lines of what type of agent are you? They already come with experience, they come with no experience. That's going to put you on a separate track. So we have the systems figured out for that type of stuff. But long story short, yes, not everybody's a good fit. We're not a good fit for everybody. But yes, we're always expanding.
Nice. That being said, there's thousands of agents out there. How do you stand out and differentiate yourself from the competition since you're hiring?
This is a great question because I feel like I've had an answer to this question for years without even realizing. And this is something that takes awareness to build, like building that awareness on why people stand out, right? It's an interview question because it's an interview. The differentiating yourself from the competition, this industry, in my opinion, I don't want to get in trouble for saying this, but this industry has so much not good stuff. Let's just say it's corrupt in a lot of ways. That the easiest thing you could do to differentiate yourself, and it is easy, I swear, is just do the right thing. Just be ethical. Seriously. The easiest thing you could do in this industry is just do good. That's it. Listen to your clients, do better for them, be in the advisor position. And somebody's gonna laugh, say, no, but everybody could do that. You have a license. No. Mm-mm. There's people out here who will replace policies for clients who have day one coverage, give them a 2-year waiting period because they could get them $5 cheaper. There's people out here who will misrepresent permanent life insurance as if it's the one product that'll take you to the moon and back. There's people out here saying that term insurance is the only product, and then there's those same people will sell a simplified issue term rather than fully underwritten so they could make more money. It's one of those things where I really think in my heart, I believe that the best way to differentiate yourself in this industry, just be real and just do things right, be ethical, be straightforward, be black and white. There's no need to live in a gray area because if you do, be ready for fines and more. Do not stay in the gray area. Just do right and you'll stand out. You really will.
Straight up. I love that. Last two questions. How can people get a hold of you?
My goal has always been to be everywhere and anywhere, right? So I've got the Linktree, I've got the Instagram, I've got the Facebook, TikTok, all of that. But my two biggest communication channels right now are going to be my TikTok channel, Insure with Prit, and my Instagram, which is just my name, Pritpal, 2 underscores, and Singh. I got to change that. But Instagram and TikTok are maybe my two biggest platforms right now where I can have a good conversation with people.
Excellent. All right, final question. And this is why I do the show. There's an agent out there right now who's frustrated, maybe thinking that the leads are the problem, maybe ready to give up, but you and I both know the real power is in their hands. What is one truth you want them to know and to walk away from today that could completely transform how they see their business and their own potential?
There's a lot of pieces of advice, and I really hope that the agents listening to this are some of these people because then they can look out for this advice. It's going to be kind of generic, but I need somebody to hear this. This business is the most forgiving business on the planet. Leads could be the problem. You could be the problem. Your script could be the problem. Your comp could be the problem. Your IMO could be the problem. Get rid of the word problem and change it to challenge, first of all. But I would say you have no problem quitting and coming back next month. You have no problem taking a step back for 6 months and coming back next month. As long as you sat down before you made that hiatus and really became, again, self-aware of what was the actual challenge that you were facing. Because it's usually the surface level. Leads could be a problem. Well, that just means buy more leads. Not of the same quality. It could be your comp. Well, comps can be switched. It could be leadership. Leadership can be switched. It could be your systems. Systems can be changed. But the thing is, I can empathize with the fact that somebody who's already stuck in a rut, they don't feel that, oh, I'm going to change something. They're already too stuck. They're ready to leave. They're ready to make a big change. So I'm not against somebody stepping away and coming back, as long as you understand that coming back is part of the equation. So I would say that my number one thing is for an agent who's stuck, who's frustrated, they're thinking they have a specific problem, right? They need to understand that most of the problems / challenges can be fixed. And just be okay with the fact that this industry is forgiving. Just because somebody else been doing it for 10 years, they're not telling you that they quit for a year in between. They're not telling you that they took it slow for 6 months. So I would say that's my final and last advice on that one is it's forgiving. As long as you forgive yourself, become self-aware of what you need to do, you can come back anytime and get back to work.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Pritpal. You're one of the few people, I don't want to say that's mean, but you're one of the people that I've met in this industry that I feel has a very strong moral code, very good ethics. It's been a pleasure meeting you and knowing you for as long as I have. And I'm happy that you were able to give some of your wisdom today to anyone. So, anyone watching this, Pritpal, insure with Prit on TikTok, or what was it, Instagram? Pritpal 2 underscores.
Singh.
Pritpal 2 underscores SINGH. At least hear out what he has to say if you're looking for an ethical person to work with in this business. Let him know that you saw the podcast and maybe he can come back again. Let's incentivize Pritpal to continue to coming back to Don't Blame the Leads.
I appreciate it, man. The pleasure is mine. The advice goes right back to you. Somebody really has a heart in this industry. You're one of those people. That's why we connected. So let's just keep at it.
Straight up.